you, Julie. As I mentioned earlier, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's keeping well. Um, Thank you for joining the seminar. The seminar will be recorded. Also, there's a webinar chat, so you can pop any questions that you may have during the presentation in there. And there's also a question and answer box as well. You can pop your questions in there. What I'll do then at the end of the presentation, I'll read out and we'll share the questions with Steve Booker, who's our presenter today, and he can answer them then as we go along. Also, there'll be an option to raise your hand. Again, if you want to ask a question, by all means, raise your hand and we can you can speak through your question to Steve then for any response from him. So today's presentation is called Inspecting Mobile Access Towers with PASMA's TowerSure app. Presenter today is Steve Booker. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about Steve before we invite him in to start his presentation. So Steve is a Group Managing Director, Founder and Senior Training Instructor of Kentech Training with an extensive career in the access industry. Steve has established himself as a pivotal figure influencing standards and practices across multiple organizations. He serves as a council member and director of PASMA, and he currently holds the positions of Vice Chair of PASMA and the Ladder Association. Additionally, Steve chairs both the IPAF and the Ladder Association training committees, highlighting his dedication to advancing safety and training standards in the working at height industry. Renowned for his expertise, Steve is frequently invited to speak at seminars, webinars, facilitate bespoke courses and host events for senior health and safety professionals from various sectors, including local authorities, utilities, IIRSM groups, PASMA, a Ladder Association, IIRSM, and a health and safety executive. His leadership and commitment ensure that Kentech Training maintains exceptional service and instructor standards, consistently meeting the high expectations of market-leading clients and contractors. So that's introduction to you, Steve. So thank you, a warm welcome for you coming in today for presenting for us. We really appreciate it, and we're really looking forward to your presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to pass you over to Steve for today's seminar. Thank you.
Lovely. Well, thank you for that introduction. Sometimes it gets a little bit embarrassing that how much it goes on, but I think it just represents someone. When you get the wrong side of 60 like I am, you realise that if you've been training for 37 years, and I sit on councils and committees, as you said there, but sometimes when someone reads it all out, I don't realise quite how much I've done, but there you go. So today, as former chair of PASMA, former chair of the training committee and current vice chair of PASMA, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, or the main reason I'm here today, is to talk to you all about the new TowerSure app. Now, the presentation itself shouldn't be too long, but I'll be very interested for questions at the end if you've got any about how you get it, where you get it, how effective it is. So hopefully you can see my screen. So first of all, what I'd like to talk about is PASMA and basically who we are. So PASMA is a not-for-profit association. It's the Prefabricated Access Suppliers and Manufacturers Association. So as such, we do champion UK access sector. We are involved in not only just towers, but low-level access as well, calling podiums and small folding room scaffolds. We do like to think we set the standards for good practice. It's one of the things that I'm very passionate about, as well as the team at PASMA and a lot of our fellow training providers, in as much as we do our very best to ensure that the towers that are out there being used are not only safe on a manufacturing plant as far as they are built and manufactured to the current standards, but also that people are trained to use them safely. The training that we do as an organisation is not just within the UK. We are far-reaching into the Middle East, Singapore, South Africa, and it continues to grow. So our international influence is certainly there. And again, one of the key things that I'm very proud of is along with other members of the council and the managing director of PASMA, Mr. Peter Bennett, OBE, we do work closely with some of the government agencies and the regulators in trying to form better standards. We work with trading standards, the OPSS, to try and further the safe sale use of access equipment. And again, the go-to place for mobile access guidance, the website, which is pasma.co.uk, you can go on there to find a range of information, frequently asked questions, and general information, not only about training, but just about tower safety in general. So, do you believe I took this photograph back in 2013? It seems like yesterday, but mobile access towers. So many of you may use them. Some of you may have seen them being used. You do see them all over the place these days. But one of the keys to mobile access tower is the fact they're easy to transport. They're lightweight. They're relatively cheap to buy when you consider what you can do with them. Very simple to assemble as long as you follow the manufacturer's instructions and hopefully gain training at the right level. Multiple configurations, which I will talk about a little bit later. But towers aren't simply just straight up, straight down. We can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things with towers these days. And again, no specialist tools or equipment required. They slot together, clip together, bolt together. There's no need to have a toolbox waiting. You can hire them, you can buy them, very easy to use. And again, as far as the manufacturing and use of low scope 3 emissions impact, which is important out there these days when we're always trying to look at the carbon footprint and the impact we have on the environment. So a tower is only safe to use if it's been assembled correctly. So how is a tower assembled correctly? Well, first of all, you need competence in the understanding and training. And then you need to follow the current manufacturer's instruction manual. Now, this is one of the things that TowerSure will help you with, which I will, again, discuss in a little while. Because one of the conversations I've often had with end users is that the instruction manual didn't come out when we hired the tower, or it couldn't be read, or there was some reason whether the operators could not find the instruction manual or work to it. Again, as it says there, the only way to be sure it's assembled correctly is to follow the instruction manual and build it correctly. And then before you actually start using it, you are required under the work at height regulations to ensure that it's properly inspected. Now, this is somewhere where there's been the problem that TowerSure has been put there to fix. Now, many of you may have operatives out there that are building towers, using towers to further your own businesses, whether it be in maintenance, construction, or just simply the odd job that requires access to height in some way. One of the problems that really was the founding reason why we went to TowerSure, we bought TowerSure online, was that there's been this ever reliability on a piece of plastic, shall we say, that has been tied to a tower. Someone's written in a permanent marker that was probably too thick to actually be legible. And quite often, when the tower is finished with, that label, that inspection label, is lost. It either ends up in the mud, it's ripped off the tower, it doesn't go back where it's meant to. When I go through the criteria for tower inspection in a second, I think you will realize that that is a big problem should there be anything wrong. So it's important that when towers are not only inspected correctly, but there is a record that can be shown should that happen. So how often to inspect towers? Well, before we inspect the towers, I think one of the, I hope, obvious things is we should check the components. The components themselves individually should be checked to make sure they're functioning correctly, there's no damage, they're all compatible with each other. And again, I'll cover compatibility in just a second. Once you've built the tower, overriding, a tower should be inspected as often as necessary to ensure it's safe. So that could be any situation that might bring you to think that tower may have been affected. So after assembly, of course, we'd inspect the tower before we start using it. That's to make sure it's safe to use now. Any alteration, now we're not talking about a full dismount. If you dismantle it completely, take it across the other side of the site and build it again, that is a new tower. That is a new build. But if there's any alteration, significant alteration, other than perhaps just taking a little bit off to get it under a beam and putting it back on, um, you've really got to have a significant alteration. If there's any event that could have affected safety, like you realise you left site yesterday and the tower was intact outside, but there's been a storm overnight, high winds overnight, and you're wondering, is that tower still safe? As the bad weather affected it, or has there been unauthorized use of the tower? You've left it at the end of the building one night. You've come back the next afternoon and it's moved, and you realise that someone's used your tower. If that's the case, we have to check the tower again in case that unauthorized access has affected the safety. And then we've got the overriding one again, which is if it's all intact and everything's okay and you've been using it or it's just been up, if a tower remains assembled, then every 7 days it must be re-inspected. Now, that's caused quite a few problems amongst some of the people I've dealt with, where they go, well, we haven't used it. It's been there for a month. No one's used it. Well, it clearly says that if the tower stays up as an assembly, it should be inspected every 7 days. So that's the criteria for tower inspection. Beyond that, though, there is a need for that inspection to be recorded. And that record has to be kept available on site whilst the tower is being used, and then should be stored back in the office for up to 3 months. Now, that can be stored electronically or physically, but the fact is the requirements clearly say that you must store the record there for up to 3 months. That's in case there's any comeback on an incident that may have happened that you were not aware of even. Someone could have had an accident on the tower. You may not know, but the tower's been since dismantled. And then the question may come to you weeks, months later, can you prove that tower was assembled correctly and inspected correctly? And the only evidence you had was a piece of plastic that's been lost. And without the evidence, people will allude to the fact that there was no inspection. So the bottom line is, who can do these inspections? It should be an operative who's competent. Now, just to run through some of the courses that PASMA have available, our flagship, without doubt, is the Tower for Users course. That is towers that are manufactured and certified to the European standard EN 1004. And as that's probably the most we do. Our biggest course, no doubt. Most of our training delegates will go through this course. You have to do this course before you can move on to some of the advanced courses. There is a low-level course, as I mentioned, but this is our flagship course. We do the low-level one, podiums and small folding room scaffolds. So you've got some people that just do low-level fit-out, that work on podiums, etc. This course will work for you. We offer towers on stairs or stepped towers. That's, as you can see from the image here, it's primarily, most people see it as a staircase tower or something along those lines. But it could be a platform onto a rail bed. Where a tower is built over two different heights, then it has a stepped base, and that is what this course is aimed at. So again, you have to have done the Tower for User course before you can sit this one. We do cantilevers. So we've got side cantilevers, end cantilevers. These are handy when you've got to go up and over something. Now, again, the use of powered access has been, increasing and increasing. And don't get me wrong, I do a lot with powered access. However, sometimes the environment doesn't allow for the weight of powered access. If you've got flooring, it's not either delicate in its nature or old floors in churches and stuff like this, where there's question over its ability to take weight. This is where aluminium towers come in. because they're being lightweight and they can get quite high, and you know, things like cantilevers, very useful structures. So we do this one. We do bridge towers. So if you've got to go up and over something, it could be a conservatory, could be an entrance door, where we can bridge over it to enable you to work above it. We've then got link towers, where again we're using components of the tower to link two towers together, which are very similar as with the bridges. It enables you to work over something or to allow access underneath if required. We've then got large deck towers. Now, you don't see these being used too often. However, they do have a very distinct use when you're doing ceiling fit outs, having a large platform to walk around on. Again, this particular one, it wouldn't be nowhere near as heavy as, say, using powered access or using steel tube and fittings. So again, remember, aluminium, one of the lightest materials when it comes to this kind of stuff, can be so versatile. We also have a supervisor manager's course. Now, again, this is classroom based. It does go through tower inspection. So it's good for those that don't physically touch towers, but manage people who do. So it's good to think about in that way. Excuse me. So how are towers inspected? Well, quite simply, a competent person who is trained, experienced, and has the aptitude to know what to do and when to do it. A competent person as it would be. They are able to do this as far as assemble the mobile tower structure and also make the necessary checks against it. So one of the beautiful things about the TowerSure app, as it were, is that unlike the old inspection label that we used to talk about, where people are writing on it in a hurried manner. I mean, the amount of operatives I spoke to and said to him, why have you got that label on the tower? Like the green, you get different various, and ones where you slot stuff in, ones that fix on their stickers. One, I've even seen bits of laminated paper with a green, safe to use. And you ask them, why is that on there? And probably 80 to 90% of them say, because the site manager says I've got to have it on or I can't use it. And when you ask them, have you fully inspected the tower? Quite often they've looked at it. And I mean, stood back, go, that looks okay. They haven't gone through the step by step inspection process because they can't remember it when they sat their training course. The PASMA instructor would have gone through what needs to be done, but that was weeks, months ago. So they stand back, they look at the tower. Are there any bits left over? No. Okay, we must have used everything, so it must be okay. So there is that. Have they checked it properly? Question, which again, TowerSure will fix for you. So the ability to TowerSure to not only provide a step-by-step inspection and record where you are and what you're doing. You can also take photographs with it. And there is a labeling system, which, as you see on the image there, it has a QR code on it. So unlike the ones you'd be familiar with, which are kind of green on the front, red on the back, this one's grey on the front and red on the back. And it's actually asking people, stop and check. If you don't have to have the app, anyone that scans that QR code, once it's been linked to an inspection on TowerSure, will be taken to the actual inspection record that says who inspected it, when it was inspected, where it was, and give them the details of when that 7-day period expires. So anyone can come up to this inspection label, QR code on their phone, it's there. So, as we said, there's been a lot of issues around the way in which inspection records are completed and signed off. This kind of fixes the whole problem, if you like. So what was inspected? Now, I wouldn't want to end up in a court of law trying to support my operative's tower build with the only evidence being a badly written plastic label. As you'll see as I go through this, the TowerSure app gives you the kind of records you can only pray for if you ever end up on, unfortunately, where there's been an accident and you end up being brought to task over it. So what was inspected? It clearly labels every component that's been inspected. Who signed it off? Well, if they are PASMA trained, their details will be on the record. If they're not PASMA trained, you can still use the TowerSure app, but it will ask you to put your details in, and it will get you to acknowledge that you're signing this tower off without PASMA recognition, but it's there for you to use anyway. So how do you see the documented inspection? Well, as soon as you've finished an inspection on TowerSure and you push submit, it's up into the cloud, it's on your phone, it's there for you to retrieve all the time that inspection's there live. But I'll also talk to you in a little while about the console, which as a manager you can download currently free of charge, as the TowerSure app on the phone is free of charge. You know, I can't promise it'll be that way forever, as there's been an awful lot of money in the investment of it. But for sure, the TowerSure console will enable managers and business owners to connect all their operatives via a project, which could be a particular site, or it could be their name, or whatever. You can set a project up, invite them to it, and every time they do an inspection, it will ping up on your console that that tower's just been built. So you've got documentary evidence. And don't forget, it's not only their name and what tower they've built, it's where it was with GPS locator, as well as a list of all the inspection they've carried out and photographs. You know, that's the kind of evidence I was ever brought to task. So let's talk about TowerSure in a little bit more depth. So it does guide operatives through an inspection process, not just as simple as have you checked, have you checked. It offers images, because when you check your actual, when you're building the TowerSure input, as it were, it will ask you what type of tower you've got, how high is it, and where its location is, etc., and offer you places where you can take notes. But it gives you this routine inspection to follow on each tower type. So consistent, thorough, as it says there. Competence checks, as I said, if you've got a PASMA certificate, it's here on the TowerSure app where those details will be stored. I mean, it's been a little way now since we stopped issuing certificates, and very soon the photo ID cards are going as well now, because it's all going electronic, all digitalized on the TowerSure app. So if someone wants to know your qualifications, you literally go on the TowerSure app, and from there you can send them via email, WhatsApp, Messenger. You can send them to whoever's asking you for proof of training. So electronically, everything's easy to get hold of. And the good thing is it's stored, so you can retrieve it whenever you need it. And again, it says there, see all towers on all sites and projects without leaving your office. Well, this is the console. So I personally do it. I run a training center with 8 PASMA instructors. Each of my instructors are a project. So if they go anywhere in the world and do a PASMA course, when they do their demo build, as it were, when we're instructing people, the first thing they do on the practical side of training is to build a 2-meter tower where they can demonstrate all the aspects of the various assembly methods, whether it be AGR or 3T, you know, how toe boards go on, how stabilizers go on, and they will build that, and then they will demonstrate how the TowerSure app works by doing an inspection on the 2-meter tower they've built for a demonstration. And in that, my console will ping up to say, instructor 1 has just built the 2-meter tower at this site. Here's photographs of it. And I can see that quite clearly. And then a few minutes later on another site, ping, another instructor's just built a demo tower. So I can see what they're doing straight away. I know that they've built the tower. I've got evidence. And also PASMA's got evidence as well that that's gone on. So the two elements work in tandem, as it says there. We've got simple, easy to use smartphone app, which is free download. It's available on Apple or Android. And then we've got the powerful web-based console, which I use personally. It only ever just keeps improving. more functionality, more robust than it ever was. So if we look at the mobile app first, there's a little video here of me demonstrating to a couple of our trainers. Now, this isn't operative based, but it's a video we took when we were trying to tell the PASMA instructor family out there, as it were, how you would run this this particular video. So, TowerSure and how it can assist us as instructors with our training courses. So when we have our delegates doing their training courses, what we need to do is to get them to inspect the tower and show them how it can work. So the first thing I want to do, you've got the apps open. So when you open the app, you see in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a blue circle with a plus button inside it. So if you hit that plus button, now straight away, you see that it says tower is part of a project. If you untick that, because we're not part of a project. Now, the tower location, you can enter the location where the training is taking place. The next question it's asking you is what type of tower it is. So if you click on that, you see there's a drop-down box. Now you see it's got several different types of tower. You want, in this particular case, which is a 3-meter standard tower, you want to click the mobile access tower. Now, you see the next thing, it gives you a unique 9-digit number. Now, that is the unique 9-digit number that we'll ask our delegates to record on their delegate booklet. And that can be linked back to this inspection, and it will be a way of proof that they carried out an inspection. Yeah, so it gives a paper chain behind it, if you like. Now, if we look down, as we go down, if you scroll down a little bit, you come down and you see we've got the tower assembled on behalf of. So in this case, we're just going to write in their training, but it could be on behalf of your company or the organisation you're building the tower for. So the default one for us when we're doing a training course will just be training. If you go continue, you'll see now you've got a few more questions. So basic one, did you assemble the tower? Now, on a training course, of course, the people that we're asking to inspect it will be the people that have just built it. So in this case, we're going to say, yes, it is us, and we're going to enter our details. Now, if you've already got this tag and you have recognition with PASMA as a user already, your details should already be in there. But for new users that haven't already been certified under the PASMA Tower for Users course or other appropriate course, they enter their details here. Then it asks the platform height. Now, in this case, the tower we're inspecting today is a 3-meter tower. So if you set that to 3 meters, and of course, that can go right up to 12+ meters. And you know, the next question is the tower indoors or outdoors? So in this case, we're indoors. Now, again, if you go down to continue to inspection, yeah, go down. And now you will have a series of questions. So the first question there is, you'd like to read it out for me, Jason?
Are ground conditions suitable? All caster brakes locked and wheels in contact with the ground.
So in this case, all caster brakes are on, they're all in contact, the tower's been leveled and true. So we can answer a tick to that. And basically work through all the inspections here. So as you work through it, if you answer positively to these questions, so is the tower level? We've leveled it already, so we can go okay with that one. Next question is it stabilized? Again, stabilizers all attached, so we can answer yes to that one. Again, all the horizontal and diagonal braces, guardrails, etc., are they all in the right position and connected correctly? We've already just finished an inspection on this tower, and as such, we know we've checked all these, so they're okay. So we can go through and click that one. Again, spigot locks. So again, with this one, spigot locks are all in. We can say okay with that one. And again, numerous other questions as it works through the various aspects of an inspection. So if we work through that, and if you just go okay with all that, yeah, keep going. Yeah, last question 9. Right. You see here, it now details your details and the tower, but you've got a grey square with a plus button inside. If you hit the plus button, it should go straight to your camera. There you go. Right, if you'd like to stand back and take a photograph of the tower itself, try and get everything in from top to bottom. And you captured that. Yep. Now, bear in mind, you can use that. You can do multiple photographs here. So if you go use photo, you see the same grey square is still there. So if you need to take photographs of various aspects or anything you're concerned about, you can continue to take photographs of it and add them to the actual inspection. But assuming that's okay, we can then hit complete. And the next question it asks is for you to agree to the terms and conditions of the app. You go yes. And there you go. It's now registered that that tower has been inspected. You've got your unique 9-digit number to record. Now, every one of your delegates on a training course will go back and they'll have their own individual 9-digit number that's recorded on the delegate home. And when they're finished and brought the tower down, if you go back into that particular tower, now, so click on the tower you've just seen there that's been accepted. Now, it will ask you, do you want to re-inspect the tower? If you go right down to the bottom, you notice it labels the location, but right at the bottom, it's got markers dismantled. So once the tower is finished, once we get them to do the inspection, we get them to register it on TowerSure. Once they've disassembled the tower and everything's finished, we get them to go back into the app, mark, pull down, and then it should say, right, there's no towers in your area. And that's as simple as it is to use TowerSure on a tower course.
There you go. So the maximum number of photographs you can take is 6, which should be sufficient for anyone wanting to take photographs of a single inspected tower. So hopefully what you saw there was the step-by-step process of not only describing the type of tower, the height of the tower, location, etc., whether it's indoors, outdoors, but then going through this kind of, in this particular case, a 9-step inspection. Then once you've done that, being able to take up to 6 photographs of that tower in its assembled and just recently inspected format. And also, I don't know if you noticed just before they dismantled the tower, the GPS location on there with longitude and latitude. So it's a very accurate GPS. It can tell you exactly where that tower was built. So that evidence then would come to you on the console and it would be there for you to retrieve should you need it, even after the tower's built, which will show you the console in just a second. So you can also see your qualification on there, which will give you, who you are, what your certificate number is, and what qualifications you've got, what different types of courses you've sat, and the ability to send it from there. So the photographic evidence is really a game changer. Being able to prove that, yes, there was a handrail on that tower when I left it. Yes, there was stabilizers on that. And quite often if there has been an incident involving access towers, the first thing you tend to find is the injured party will try and say it wasn't their fault. It was the tower. It was the way in which it was sited. It wasn't level. Where being able to produce evidence that in fact it was built correctly and it was level, etc., is gold if you ever have to be taken to task over it. So as I said, one side of the inspection label is grey, the other side is red, for the same reasons as you currently use on the other type where you've got do not use. So this isn't a permission slip. It isn't I've gone to lunch, turn the red side on. The only time you turn the red side on is if there's something about the tower that makes it not safe to use. That is the purpose of this, the status of the tower, not whether you want to try and stop unauthorized use. That's a different problem completely. So centralized tower guidance, as it says there, we also have the info side of it. So this is only just recently, one of the reasons I wanted to do this webinar is that I done one on TowerSure some months ago. Well, it's been coming forward in leaps and bounds. Now we have the info side of it. So yes, you can find a training center if you didn't know where one was. You can find instruction manuals for all of the manufacturing members of PASMA. You can also read the code of practice if you want to reference it. And it's just a general help how to use the actual app. So they're all valuable things. And again, great if you've got them when you need them. So as far as finding a training center, it just so happened that we looked up ourselves. So you see there, you can see Kentech Training was a distance of 0.01 miles from where we done the search, which, because we were there. But it will detail, you can put in the postcode and it will tell you your nearest training centre. So there's that ability there, nice and clear. Up-to-date instruction manuals. So again, part of PASMA's manufacturing membership criteria is that they upload their current manufacturer's instruction manuals to the PASMA website, where we can then load them onto the app or onto the pasma.co.uk website for retrieval by operators. Now, again, if you're on the phone, it may be quite small, but it's better than not having them at all. Or you can open them up and you can send them on to a larger viewing, things like your laptop or something like that, to be able to see them. And the code of practice. Now, this is something we reference when we're on the training courses. It's a great generic guide to access tower safety. So it's not specific to any manufacturer, but it's more a case if it runs through a genuine code of practice for use of mobile access towers. So great if you're specifying a job and you want help writing your method statement. It's a great reference document for that too. So lastly, there's the support for the TowerSure app. So if you're not sure how to do it, why you can't make it work, then there is help here on the app. So the management console. Now, again, I use this on a regular basis. It's probably one of the real game changers. As I say, it's one thing to be able to do the inspection at the point of work. It's another thing for management to be able to retrieve that inspection and know they've got it, without having to go and find it. Literally, if operative A was on a site yesterday, they built a tower, they've taken the tower down. As long as they use the app properly, I can go into the console and go, look, there's the tower he built. This is when he built it. This is where he was exactly. And now it's been dismantled at this time. So it's a gold dust if you're ever called to task on mobile access towers. So you'll see them all. And you see here, again, the inspection details of every tower. So this particular one, I know it's going back to 2021, but it will tell you a photograph of the tower and then the fact that it was green ticked on everything. You, on the console level, can put a note on it, do not use. Now, physically, you're not there to say do not use, but if anyone scanned the inspection label that's on the tower, it would say it's not to be used. So again, it's another control mechanism within TowerSure. So you can see what towers have been built, what towers have been dismantled, what towers have failed inspection for one reason or another, because you can fail the inspection. Not everything is about passing towers. It gives you a note of a tower was found to be faulty. Now, quite often that's not on the initial build, but it's on the re-inspection some days later when someone's borrowed a bit or something's moved and they found now there's parts missing, so they've got to fail the tower temporarily until they retrieve replacement parts. So the beauty of it is each tower will have its own 9-digit ID. It will have its GPS location. It will have details about the inspection process, including photographs, the operative's name, etc. So that enables you to comply fully with the worker height regulations requirement for inspection of access equipment. So far better than relying on a piece of plastic that's probably in the mud or gone back to the hire centre with the tower. So as I said, it's never been easier using TowerSure to comply with the worker height regulations as far as inspection processes are required. So how to download it? Well, pasma.co.uk/TowerSure, that will get you the access to the console or a link to the App Store, etc. Or within the App Store or the Android equivalent, just look for PASMA TowerSure and it'll be there for free download. And again, it's automatically updated from time to time as we improve the facilities that are there. So thank you for listening. I hope some of you find that useful. But really, the TowerSure app, I think, is a game changer when it comes to the safe use, subsequent inspection, and the overall safety when it comes to mobile access towers. So that's me. Hope I haven't gone on too long, but if anyone's interested in any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Steve. Excellent presentation, really insightful. I think it does open your eyes to see how I've got my own personal um, mobile tower access thing, which is great use for decorating. It's only a small one, but I'm forever checking I put it up correctly and things like that. And you do get little bits, especially if they're out in construction sites, they get damaged quite a lot, and they get bent. You see the aluminium supporting bars get knocked and bent and things like that, and you see them sometimes not being correctly diagonalized or whatever. They put them in different shapes and things. I bet
Quite
you've seen some.
often, my wife will tell me off for walking along the street when the rare occasions when I go out shopping with her, and she'll tell me off because I'm looking up and down towers, ladders, mobile access, and
Can't
it'll be,
switch off.
there's a pile of braces at the bottom of that tower, not because the hire centre gave you more than you needed, it's because you haven't put them up.
Yeah,
They're not in the right place. You mentioned one you've got at home. I would, as a word of caution, PASMA as an organisation, we've done some testing not so long ago on some of what we call DIY towers, the ones that are
yeah,
sold on the internet quite openly. Um, and we found that a lot of them really, really fell short of safe standards. Um,
yeah,
they weren't constructed to any standard complete, in particular, certainly weren't constructed to EN 1004. On top of that, we found the loading, they wouldn't take an awful lot of loading before they distorted. And that some of the obvious safety mechanisms like stabilizers, they were an optional extra that you had to pay for. So you'd buy a four
it's a
meter
concern,
tower and
isn't
you'd be
it?
like,
Yeah,
do you want the stabilizers? Yes or no? And of course, if you're not educated in tower stability, you go, why do I want to pay extra money for something if they're saying, if I needed it, surely it'd be included?
yeah.
Well, we found that a lot of these people selling these DIY towers online were not pushing the required components. And then when we did test them, they really did fall short of safe. I would
It's
warn
worrying,
anyone
isn't
about,
it?
yeah.
They should be banned really from being purchased, shouldn't they? Those type of
Well,
things.
it's one of those things that we don't want to ban them because there's a commercial gain to be made out of selling proper industrial towers. We want to ban them because they're not safe.
Yeah,
And it's one of those things. It was already we done a whole filming session up at the Test and Research Centre in Soham, which a lot of the findings were published, and we've done some video on them, which I think can be seen on the PASMA YouTube channel. But only a couple of days after we finished that, there was one of the very same towers featured on one of the DIY programs on TV,
well,
and you're like, someone's not done their homework.
no, somebody at the TV company. We've got a question from John. He's asking, for works in the Republic of Ireland, can the Irish CSCS qualification for mobile access tower be linked to the app?
It's not so much that it can be linked to the app, is that you can use the app without having to have a PASMA qualification. So you can still use the app. It will ask for your name and address, or sorry, your name every time, because it will not know. You'll not be preloaded onto the app because you don't have a PASMA qualification. However, it's literally first name, last name. You don't have to put anything more in. Everything else is about the tower. But it will ask you at the end to acknowledge that you're using this app as a non-PASMA trained person, and that you understand that we advise you to get suitable and sufficient training. However, it's available to you. So simple answer is yes, you can use it. It doesn't link to it, but you can still use it.
Thank you. Hopefully that answers your question, John. If anybody else got any questions, by all means, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. So you can speak to Steve, or you can pop it in the chat. Well, we see if that happens. I had a question for you, if that's okay, Steve. With regards to working at height permits to work.
Mhm.
So, say for example, now we've got a contractor coming onto site. They're using they're qualified, they've got the right training, but obviously with a permit, it can factors in the weather and other factors, that in the environment they're setting it up. Does the app have a link, or I know sort of slightly outside of the inspection of the actual tower, but does it consider wider issues like permits to work or risk assessments or environmental hazards that can be also a danger when you're erecting them?
It doesn't directly link to any particular thing, but there is a note section. And the reason the note section is in there is to make any qualifying remark that you may want to add to not only the tower, as you've alluded to, but maybe the environment you're working in, or maybe that there is a permit to work attached to that particular environment or work task. So the notes are there to add comments to.
Yeah, great.
But we had to be very careful when this was being made, that it kind of fit everyone rather than getting too
Yeah,
specific.
yeah,
And the more you put into it, the more complex the app becomes, the less robust it becomes, and it simply can't be everything to everyone. It was aimed at towers being used, whether you're PASMA trained or not trained, and giving you enough room on there to add detail in.
no, spot on. I know, for example, with permits and risk assessments, they come under your management controls or your contractor controls anyway. It
Yes.
wouldn't be part of this inspection app. I just wondered if there was some sort of crossover, but the notes section would probably just say something like, please refer to risk assessment or permits before undertaking the work or something like that, isn't it? It's
Yeah. So
just a
it
reference
becomes
to it.
part of the permit to work system, if you
System.
like,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
opposed to a permit to work.
yeah. No, spot on. Thank you. Is there any other questions coming in from anybody? I'm just checking through there's nothing in the questions and answers. I think people have been popping them in the chat anyway. So look, anybody got their hand up? No. Okie doke.
Must have
Oh, hang
asked
on,
a
hang on. There's
question.
one in sorry, there's one coming to the questions and answers. Okay, so Nicola has asked a question. Can you link this app to the app like Safety Culture app with the link so you have all the information in one place?
Not currently. No, it's a standalone app.
You see, it's because it's quite specialized, isn't it, into mobile access towers?
Again, it's one of those things that we saw the problem as the fact, as I mentioned, that the current system tends to be to put a plastic label of some kind onto a tower.
Yeah,
And that label is often lost when the tower's dismantled. And as such, this replaces that, but not only replaces it with an electronic format that can be read on the console, it's safe in the cloud, if you like,
yeah,
so it can be retrieved, and it still does everything that the original plastic labeling system used to do, but gives you that extra detail of a step-by-step inspection, GPS location, and more details about the operatives that's done it, and the photographs.
yeah,
It's that kind of information. As I said, when are we really going to test this? Something's happened, there's an incident on site, and someone says, you didn't build that tower properly. Now, the operatives that, you can always hear them shouting out, oh, Big Brother's watching again. Now my boss is going to watch me building towers, dismantling towers, taking photographs of towers. But should they be the one that's assembled that tower and there is an incident, wouldn't you rather be the one that says, look, boss, it's on the app. I've got all
yeah,
the photographs. I've got all the details. I've got everything. As opposed to, oh, let me try and find the bit of plastic that I wrote with the big Sharpie
yeah.
that you can't read anything on. I wouldn't want to be brought to task over the latter.
No, it's the way of the world now. We're moving more to things like apps, QR codes, Microsoft Forms. Everything's done digitally, electronically, and stored instantly, isn't it? And so it is easily retrievable. Gone are the days where some of the ladder and the tower access things we had were, it was bolted on. You had a Sharpie basically wrote on there. It can be wiped off. They were lost. They were broken. They were on the floor. You didn't know which ladder
Exactly.
they were linked to, and then there were ladders go missing. We couldn't find them, couldn't relate back to the reference. And from personal experience, it is a nightmare. But with this type of system, it is much quicker. Just scan with your phone up on the app. Boom, 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 go
Yeah.
through it, and then you're done. And news. People
Again,
want
you
people
don't.
want things quicker now, don't they? And
Yeah, and don't forget, if you don't want to use the app, you don't have. Sorry, the console. You don't have to. You can. It will stand alone as an app. However, you can't link it to one of the inspection labels.
yeah,
But the console's there to download. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
a small jobbing builder or small facilities maintenance, and you've only got a small crew, well then if it's your company, you download the console. It's weird. I can actually do a tower inspection when I'm doing a training course, and it will pop up on my phone that the project Steve Booker has just assembled a tower. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
good,
yeah, I
isn't
know. I get both.
it?
I get told I'm doing it, and I'm doing it. But it's
It's good to get a team of people who are out there doing it. You can see what they, that they are
yeah,
correctly doing it then, isn't
and
it? It's a
the whole
record.
thing with the big brothers watching as well. Remember, if you're running any kind of business, you haven't got the time in the day to be spying on everyone. This
No.
whole thing is there. It's like CCTV. I mean, if you've got an 8 camera, 16 camera CCTV, you don't sit in your office watching every camera all day. The thing is, if there's an incident, you can go to the recording and
Check.
you can pull up, and there you've got
Yeah.
your evidence. And it's not always evidence to chastise; it's evidence to defend sometimes.
Mm, mm.
I've had it a lot with things that have happened over the time, and you think, well, look at, I wish I had CCTV back then, and you see it, and you're like, wow, there's the truth.
It's
It's like
it's
everything. If you haven't got an electronic or paper proof that something happened in this day and age, it didn't happen, did it?
yeah. So another question then, could future versions include the ability to link or integrate with other sign-off platforms such as Safety Culture or Work Wallet? Many event teams already use the systems, and having a central access point would reduce the number of separate apps the staff need to remember and access during an event.
Well, I will take it back to the developers. I mean, the one thing, there is a development team that looks out for this app all the time. So always looking if you can make it more widely used. I'm sure they will look at it and look at the viability of making it fit. But
Yeah.
yeah, um, I've certainly said it's a possibility.
I know
Depends.
I have used the Safety Culture app myself several times. They're good for inspections and it's good for other things, but perhaps they haven't got this sort of standard of app that you've got. But if you can have a link to it or something like that, that would be massive
Well, in this day
for
and age,
safety professionals. Just instead of opening one app for this, another app for that, another app for that, they can have all under one umbrella, so to speak.
the people that the tech people that deal with this now, they must admit, I've sat on Teams meetings, and when they get talking, I am lost. Um,
Yeah, I know it's the way forward, I think, and
yeah,
it's definitely something that perhaps that you could take back to the developers, see if they can
yes,
link it
yes, we'll.
into some of the wider safety type apps that perhaps don't have this type of thing on them, but they could link to yours, and then they could be part of the one
There may
one
well
app for
be.
everybody. Then in the future, perhaps that's the way it's going to
Yeah,
go,
one of
isn't
them
it?
told me once, "There's nothing you can't do. It's just money or time you've got to throw at it.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything's possible."
It's got to be advantageous for you to do it, isn't it? But yeah, great.
Well, to be
Um,
honest, the whole thing comes back. If it helps make tower mobile access towers safer, then we will do everything we can to get there.
yeah, thank you, and thank you, Steve, for your time today. It was really,
No
really
problem.
appreciated. We've got no further questions for you, just other than to thank you for your time today, and I appreciate you spending an hour of your day to educate us on the app, and definitely going to download it and have a look what we've got and what we're doing on the site here. And I'll be sharing it as well with my fellow safety colleagues as well in other industries. So
Okay.
appreciate that from you.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
just one other thing, just before we leave, is just to let everyone know the next seminar will be in September, and we are looking at the cost of ill health and well-being in the workplace. That's been done by Dr. Zoe Billingham, and that'll be September. I think the dates are just been finalised now, and you'll be on the branches page on the IIRSM. So keep an eye out for that, and there'll be invites closer to the date as well. So appreciate you can come along to the next one. Thank everyone for their time and questions today, and thank you again, Steve, for your time and your expertise for sharing with the group. So really appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Thank you all. Have a good, safe afternoon. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.